With the increase in distance education in the past decade, for the current study we chose to focus on understanding students' reactions to distance education. A model provided by Tennant in the literature review demonstrates a nice breakdown of 3 aspects affecting students in their online distance education experience. The first being online material delivery. What and how much are students learning? Next, online assessments. How well are students performing? And the third and most important to the current study is online interaction and engagement. What are students thinking and feeling? Why focus on psychological outcomes? Students' thoughts and feelings can be related to their learning outcomes. For instance, how interested a student may be in one subject could have a relationship with how well they perform on their exams. Additionally, their thoughts and feelings can help inform us of best practices. A certain preference might help them perform better, which could be applied in future online classes. Finally, they can help to form the bigger picture. In a review of the literature, some important theoretical models came about, the first of which being the importance of individual differences. An extroverted student might be more inclined to enjoy an in-class setting compared to an introverted student, which might feel more comfortable in an online course. Sun and et al. Provided 6 learning satisfaction factors that we can separate for the online learning experience. The first 3 being of importance to the current study, that is, learners, instructors, courses, technology, design, and environment. For the empirical findings throughout the literature review, we were able to separate different aspects into 2 categories: those students were satisfied with and those that students were dissatisfied with. Now, among these categories, there were some parallels which will be pointed out. Students were found to be satisfied with discussion boards. However, they felt dissatisfied with the lack of usability in an online setting. There was a parallel with students being satisfied with the amount of student and instructor interaction in distance education. However, at the same time, they were dissatisfied with the lack of interaction. Students were satisfied with the level of support they were able to obtain in a distance education setting. However, they felt dissatisfied with the lack of resources. Flexibility. Students who commute or work full-time can benefit greatly from being able to enroll in an online course. However, on the other hand, students are somewhat dissatisfied with the amount of time it takes to complete their work. Students were satisfied with privacy. They could complete their homework in the comfort of their own home. Yet, there was a dissatisfaction as working from home can also lead to much distraction. Students were satisfied with the amount of information access. You have the internet right at your hands. However, they felt dissatisfied that some of the material in online courses was outdated. The final parallel is between the elective courses and required courses, where students felt satisfied with their distance education experience if the course was elective, yet when the course was required, they felt dissatisfied with their experience. Moving forward with our current study, we hope to extend upon previous research by prioritizing students' needs in a specific context. In this case, it was students at Westchester University. Additionally, we hope through understanding students' preferences for distance education that attention will be directed towards most effective practices.
Our next section has to do with methodology, and our research question is, what do students think about distance education? The data sources consisted of 36 journal entries written by 36 teacher candidates, so one journal entry per teacher candidate, and these teacher candidates were taking the course Teaching English Language Learners Pre-K-12. Now what happened was that these teachers were listening to a research presentation, faculty reactions to and attitudes about asynchronous online discussion forums in an online faculty development program, and then they were requested to write journal entries about their reactions to this research presentation in particular, and then distance education in general. With regards to procedures, there were 3 researchers, namely Dr. Jennifer Bunk, myself, and our student researcher, Bridget McGrory. We used NVivo, which is a qualitative research software. We coded the journal entries, and then we looked for themes, and we also coded the themes at negative and positive at first pass. Then after we had coded everything, we looked at the text, the journal entries again, and then realized it would be best to recategorize the themes according to course, instructor, and learner characteristics. And these were 3 of 6 characteristics as identified by Sun et al. 2008. So here we have the themes at first pass, and we can see that online was most frequent with 71 references, followed by positive, negative, and so on, all the way down to face-to-face, which had 2 references. And this is the themes at second pass, and so we can see that online at negative there were 45 references, whereas there were 26 references for online and positive. And we can see that, discussion board and negative and discussion board and positive featured greatly, followed by interaction, learning style, followed by online experience, assessment, and so on. However, there were particular themes that featured greatly for one or the other of the negative or positive aspects of the coding. And we can see this with flexibility and positive 20 references, as opposed to flexibility and negative just 1 reference, or blended and positive 9 references as opposed to 2 references for blended and negative. So these were the themes which were very different with regards to negative and positive aspects of themes. When it comes to finding, as mentioned previously, we divided the themes to course characteristics, instructor characteristics, and student characteristics. So we'll start with course characteristics. Students really did not like it when the tasks were ill-designed, and NB2 said, a discussion board that has too many guidelines or requirements feels like being given a picture and told to color inside the lines. It dismisses any chance for creativity or individuality by having all students conform to the same old cookie-cutter answers that get the good grades. So the second course characteristic that students had problems with were what I've termed learning and assessment, and DR2 says many times classes that are online just state the facts and have open book tests and quizzes which don't benefit the students. This is due to the fact that they are not learning and memorizing the information and retaining this knowledge, rather looking up facts to pass a class. Since the students aren't technically required to know the material, I feel that many online classes are easy A's and do not benefit everyone. So what's interesting is that students consider memorizing the information and retaining the knowledge to be learning, and we know that that is not what learning is supposed to be. So there is some education that needs to be going on with regards to what distance education is really all about. And this one, the third aspect of course characteristic, unlike the first two, is actually positive, specifically positive attitudes about blended learning.
My absolute favorite because it enabled us to meet with the teacher and our classmates at least once a week, yet we could complete our assignments and outside of the classroom learning on our own time. I felt more independent this way, and my grades were actually better than the typical in-class-only learning. To me, this type of learning felt more like what I'd expected college to be, what it was supposed to be, where our grades and how much effort/energy we put into an assignment was totally on us.
So we move on to the second category of findings, namely instructor characteristics. The first being organization. Students loved it when a distance education course was organized. NT said, at the beginning of the semester, everything was posted on the online syllabus, and she strictly followed the syllabus. For example, we even knew when our final was going to be due months ahead of time. I loved her organization. The second one, which they didn't like, was that there was a lack of interaction. ML said, in prompts, like respond to a classmate's thoughts, I usually looked for ones that I agree with, because it's first of all easier to agree with someone than it is to argue with them. But you also don't have to worry about offending anyone or coming off as rude, since the people you're interacting with don't know your tone or your personality. Now, I have to say that I was surprised at this one. It totally came out of left field for me. And what's interesting is that this is where the lack of a face-to-face rapport is really detrimental to distance education. Students did not dare to, share critical opinions to and this is something that needs to be looked into. Next is the need for student autonomy and teacher support. FP says, I found that I needed to spend more time throughout the week focusing on my online classes than my classes that were face-to-face. I did not get the opportunity to attend class 1 to 3 times a week and learn the information auditorily. Instead, I was teaching the information to myself over the course of many days. Also, I did not find it appropriate that online classes had different assignments due all throughout different times in the week. This resulted in confusion for both me and my classmates, whereas in a face-to-face class, assignments are usually due on the date that you attend class. So what FP is saying is that they are not ready for student and autonomy, that there is a need for students to be autonomous, and this is something that needs to be mentioned to online students before they sign up. And this is it.